I have a confession to make. I dropped out of my high school economics class in my senior year. Not because I wasn't interested in what we were learning. I'd taken several other business classes, including accounting, and enjoyed and even excelled in them all, so economics just made sense. But a month into the class, and I'd had enough. The principles of micro and macroeconomics, market structures, inflation, and economic growth, and the role of government and private sector in all of it was both incredibly fascinating and frustrating beyond measure. Fascinating because my 17-year-old self was seeing the world from a perspective that I hadn't really considered at any length before. Frustrating because it felt like I was being confronted by a juggernaut of a system I was on the verge of entering into on my own, and it terrified me. Partially because I was young and idealistic, but also because there didn't seem to be any other option. And in some ways, that's true. The economic systems we're entrenched in don't seem to give a lot of space for other ways of existing in the world. We exist in a global economic society centered on trade and commerce, money in exchange for what we need. And what we need seems to be more and more and more. And it's been that way for a very, very long time. Maybe that's why Jesus spends time talking about business and money, talking about economics and how we order ourselves around our true and perceived needs. In the parable that we just heard Jesus sharing with his friends, he talks about a manager who worked for a rich man who was mismanaging his boss's accounts. We're not entirely sure how he's mismanaged things. Maybe he's skimming off the top, charging people more than what was due. Regardless, he was up to something fishy and was called out for it and told he was losing his job. So the manager gets busy, starts calling those in debt to the rich man, and slashes what is owed. You owe 100 jugs of oil, make it 50. 100 containers of wheat, make it 80. And this was not done out of the goodness of his heart. This was done to extend the circle of indebtedness to include not only the rich man, but also the manager. Those in debt to the rich man now also owed the manager, and once his last paycheck ran out, he's not going to hesitate to knock on the door and say, "Remember me? Time for my payback." An economic system that looks out for one's own well-being, accruing debt in order to ensure it. And with this, the rich man is impressed. He even commends the manager. The manager knows how to play the game after all. He's not only set himself up well, but made the rich man look good in the process. Even if it means he's out 50 jugs of olive oil and 20 containers of wheat. The rich man's reputation is intact. He doesn't really need the olive oil or the wheat anyway. And the juggernaut of a system will continue to chug along. Why in the world would Jesus use this story as a teaching illustration? It might help us to remember just who Jesus is talking to here. Yes, the disciples, his closest friends, but if we were to continue the reading by just one verse, we'd discover that listening off to the side were a group of religious elitists who Jesus describes as lovers of money. So you've got a group of people who've left everything to follow Jesus, and a group of people who are more dedicated to their money than their faith. And Jesus is not about to give up an opportunity to invite all who would hear to consider their relationship with money and possessions. Now, Jesus is anything but naive. He knows that those who were and would follow him live in a world where money talks. And he clearly understands that with wealth, one can buy just about anything, from mansions to friends to the last word. And to navigate such an economy, well, it takes ingenuity and strong analytical and interpersonal skills. Jesus even points out that these skills are valuable. They're something worth cultivating. But in the end, he's pretty clear. You cannot serve wealth and God. How we live amidst the enmeshed economic structures of the world matters. I recently read a powerful book by Robin Wall Kimmerer called The Serviceberry: Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World. Robin is a botanist, a university professor, and member of the citizen Potawatomi Nation. And in this book, she explores economics from the perspective of the natural world by way of gift economies. Gift economies are tied to a deep recognition that the land, that creation, is an active participant in the well-being of our lives, gifting us what we need to be well in the world. Whether we're doing our own harvesting in the forest or, as she puts it, harvesting from the shelves of a store, it all comes from the earth as gift. When we speak of what the earth gives, not as commodities, things, or even natural resources, but as gifts, Robin suggests that our whole relationship to the natural world changes, because gifts are to be cherished and shared, not amassed and redistributed to the highest bidder. She explains that gift economy is characterized by gratitude and reciprocity, which arise from the abundance of gifts from the earth, which are owned by no one, and therefore shared. And the gratitude is deeply rooted in a belief of enoughness, of what the earth, the land, desires to share with all. Enoughness. Reciprocity is the natural response to both the earth and to one another. And it's not about payment, rather about keeping the gift in motion in a way that is open and diffuse, so that the gift does not accumulate and stagnate. making a gift economy inherently regenerative and invested in mutual flourishing and in reach of everyone. Now, Robin makes the bold claim that gift economies are the only path forward because they invite us all into the circle to give our human gifts in return for all we are given, entwining us more wholly with the earth and with one another, a web of shared relationships as opposed to a system of self-abundance and indebtedness. You cannot serve wealth and God. Or from the First Nations version of the New Testament, you cannot be loyal to the great provider and to possessions at the same time. How we live amidst the enmeshed economic structures of the world matters. I wonder, might the principles of a gift economy help us to lean more deeply into a way that is God-shaped? A way that not only gifts us what we need, but opens us up to be transformed by the great provider, and in turn transforming our relationships with both one another and creation. Now, this doesn't mean that we need to drop Economics 101. Our acquired business acumen, ingenuity, analytical, and interpersonal skills are all incredibly useful. Yet, as followers of Jesus, we place these alongside another set of attributes. Attributes that grow and produce the abundant fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Gifts given to us by God and harvested in and among us by the Holy Spirit. Turns out Jesus is bringing to light another way within the system. And I think it looks a lot like a gift economy, filled with gratitude and reciprocity, where we don't have to hang on to our possessions with clenched fists. Because in the end, the truest riches are love and mercy and compassion, of which Jesus has promised us there is more than enough to go around. So let's loosen our grip and invest in mutual flourishing. Let's examine in ourselves and in our communities where we serve wealth more than God, where we're loyal to our possessions over the great provider, and explore and enter into the way of the greatest gift we've all been given: